Something else is over there.
I'll get to you eventually, which is
Oh, no, I can be last. I'm fine. It's the best for last? It's a city council meeting.
Don't ask me. Somebody's buzzing, I can't tell you what. Cell phone's too close to the mic, would be my guess. Uh-huh.
Okay, if you will, we're going to call this meeting to order. This is the regular city council meeting of June the 6th. It is 6 p.m. I'll ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Good evening. Mayor Goodman. Council President Jones.
Here.
Vice President Robinson.
Here.
Councilmember Bullock.
Here.
Councilmember Cox.
Here.
Councilmember Hines.
Here.
City Manager Terry Bouchard.
Here.
Attorney Pierce Ballou.
Here.
City Clerk Patricia Wright. I'm here. And all other staff.
Here.
Okay, thank you for joining us tonight. If you will, am I working? I'm not sure I am.
Yeah, you are.
Okay. If you will, please stand with me at this time for the Pledge of Allegiance and the prayer over there.
Lord, we come to you tonight, and we thank you for all the blessings that you give this great country. Lord, we just ask that you continue to bless our country as we try to do the things that are best for our community. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Still doing it.
Ask if there are any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda. I have two. All right, you will take note of your agenda.
It's not working.
We are tabling item I, which is, under new business, so 5I. And we are tabling 5M.
You're not, mic's not on good.
I told you it wasn't on, it was.
Well, it was earlier.
Is it working now?
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. I can't hear myself. I can now. Thank you. All right, so we're tabling I and we're tabling M. And that's at staff request. Does anybody else have anything else they would like to address at this time? Not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're now to item number 2, which is public participation. And during public participation, anyone who joins us can speak to any item that is not on the agenda for up to 5 minutes. So if you're here tonight, there's another opportunity at the end. Let me add that as well. But if you're here tonight and you would like to add, if you would like to address the council for up to 5 minutes on any item that is not on the agenda, please come to this podium. Okay, hearing none. Hearing nobody online?
Nope.
Okay. Hearing none, we will move on to the consent agenda, which consists of the council meeting minutes of May the 16th. I will entertain a motion for approval of the minutes, for the consent agenda, excuse me.
I'll make a motion to approve them. Consent agenda minutes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 4 is updates, and this is from staff, board, council members, anyone who wants to add here, and we'll start with the city manager.
Thank you, Madam President,
Yes, sir.
City Council. I'm gonna start, I'm gonna ask Walt Nickel to come up and give us a quick update on the golf cart ordinance and the signage in the streets and kind of where we're at.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, Walt Nickel with Ray Pierce. We prepared a technical memo and issued to staff in a draft format of our road evaluation. So we've evaluated all the roads in the city that were initially flagged or highlighted by staff to use for golf cart use. So we went through and did evaluation. And I want to go through the conditions that we use. So we set a set criteria as we evaluated each of the roads. And I'm going to run through that as a background. So we have 10 conditions that a road had to meet for it to be considered, adequate for golf cart use. So, and these are not in a particular order. One isn't better than 10, but you have to make all of these criteria. Condition 1, the posted speed limit is 35 miles an hour or less. Condition 2, the pavement cross slope is normal or not excessive, and that was for no tipping, golf cart hazard tipping. So the cross slope is as you're driving down the slope that you have on the roadway, so it could not be excessive. Condition 3, pavement or shoulder edges does not have an excessive drop-off. That could be a tipping hazard for a golf cart. So the edge of the pavement or shoulder, if there's 2 to 3 inch drop-off there, a car can overcome that, a golf cart is not going to. So if it had that condition, we felt it would be unsafe.
Walt, can you get a little closer to the mic, please?
I'm sorry. Is that better? Okay. I'll move this here. Condition 4, no poor pavement surfaces, no rutting, no excessive cracking, potholes, loose aggregate, etc. Condition 5, not on a major truck route, so we're not seeing a lot of truck usage on the street for that. Condition 6, no apparent sight distance concern for other vehicles. So other vehicles using that same road, would they have issues with sight if a golf cart was using that road at the same time? Condition 7, no apparent sight distance concern for the golf cart operators. So from their perspective, they have sight distance issues. Condition 8, no lower or obstructing vegetation or objects that might strike a windshieldless golf cart. Condition 9, pavement width would be sufficient for two-way vehicular traffic, including a golf cart with a vehicle. And condition 10, traffic volumes compatible with golf cart use. So using that, we evaluated all the roads. We indicated some of the roads clearly did not meet all these conditions, and they were flagged. And in the map that we provided, they were flagged in red. There was a deficiency here, and we couldn't do that. We found some that we flagged in blue that had a minor deficiency that could be easily fixed. And a good example we saw where there was a pavement repair, it hadn't been paved over yet, it was aggregate, or if there was a shoulder drop off for a short distance. That is something that the city could remedy fairly quickly and easily. It's not a major road project, but going out under some maintenance conditions, it can do that. So that could take some of the roads that we flagged as not acceptable easily into the acceptable category. So we prepared that, we reviewed it with staff, got concurrence on what our evaluation was, and so now we're finalizing that into the comprehensive map of the roads that need to be. And at the same time, we're evaluating, so now we know which roads start or stop, how the signage can be set up, and the number of signs, and we're working on that right now, so Public Works can start to work with that. But that's what we've done so far. We have that evaluation, we reviewed it with staff, we're now compiling that final map, and then that would be presented to the city as we finalize it.
Thank you, Walt.
Okay.
Any questions for Walt regarding the
One
map?
question. Is there going to be a golf lane anywhere in the city just for golf carts?
The only place where we're contemplating it would be actually a wider sidewalk that we're looking at is at the railroad tracks crossing on 27. To get across the railroad track, right now our current evaluation is if we had at least a sidewalk that's 6 foot in that zone, and then working with the railroad, we could get across the railroad tracks there. We wouldn't do it on the pavement there. That is one thing, it would be a wider sidewalk. That's the only place where we've seen where that would be needed.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Any other updates, Mr. City Manager?
Not for me now.
Okay. Any other staff members? Looking at my back row. Chief Stiegel.
Yes, ma'am. This is not a real important thing. I just wanted to make you aware that this weekend we'll be a little shorthanded at the fire department. About half the department's going to the first responder games. They'll be down there. Our fire department is playing in the golf tournament, the cornhole tournament, and for the first time ever, we are fielding a softball team. So it's made up of current and former employees of the City of Williston Fire Department. So if you hear about them, hopefully it's all good. It's a bunch of young men going to play softball in South Florida. I'll leave it at that. But I just wanted to make y'all well aware of them going down there, and hopefully they'll do really good.
Perfect. Hope they represent us well. Anybody else, staff-wise, at this time? Okay,
Madam
I'll ask
President.
council members if they have anything at this moment.
Madam President, just briefly.
Oh, sorry, Kristen. You are a staff person.
I have 3 quick updates for you. One, on the Peso property, we have on its way to the judge now a motion for final judgment. I think that we'll be able to get one without a hearing. After a little bit more conversation between us and the judicial assistant, I don't think that we'll need a hearing on it, so I think we might just be able to get a final judgment and be done with it. So fingers crossed, toes crossed, keep them crossed. Hopefully I have a finalized situation for us at the next meeting. That's my goal. We are receiving again invoices at the airport from Mr. Phillips. And our office would like to know how the council would like us to address that. We don't have to vote on anything, but just ideas, start thinking about how we want to approach. Last time, the way that we did this is that we sent a cease and desist letter. Mr. Phillips responded with a lawsuit. Your Florida League attorneys took over at that point. The case was dismissed on a sort of a procedural error. They indicated that they would be refiling or threatened that they would be refiling once that procedural error was corrected. They haven't yet. That doesn't mean they're not going to. If we as the city file any suit, it would not be covered under your Florida League insurance. So that's something that we need to take into consideration. So just sort of start brainstorming about how you would like our office to proceed in this area.
Thank you.
And the final update is a happy update. I wanted to show you all the 2 faces that you are talking with at our office, just to sort of put faces to names. So Kelly is back there in the black shirt and the black blazer. She's one of our legal assistants. And then of course you all know Crystal, who works with us. So when you call our office and you're trying to get to us, these are the 2 individuals who you're speaking to. So they just decided to come and say hi.
Thank you, ladies. We appreciate seeing the face. Seen some before. Nice to see you again. Yes, ma'am. Any questions for Kirsten on that matter, on these matters? Okay, any council members at this time? I have 2 things, just briefly. First of all, I have a happy birthday card for.
Why, thank you.
It is tonight is Mr. Bullock's birthday, and he is here. I told him I hope he didn't have any plans because we were going to be here a while. And happy birthday. Anybody want to sing? No, not really. Okay. It is signed by my staff as well as the council, so everybody is there with you, and we do hope you have a great year. Yes, sir.
You want me to open it afterwards?
Absolutely. It's going to take you a while. It's full. All right. The other thing that I have is a brief thank you from Mr. Elihu Ross. It says, Dear City Council President, City of Williston, I would like to take this opportunity to express my appreciation to the members of the council, Mayor Goodman, and all the city employees that I've had the pleasure to work with over the past 12 years. I wish you all the best, and if I can be of any help to you in the future, please let me know. Thank you again for the rocking chair. Your friend, Elihu Ross. gave that to me at church on Sunday, so it's for all of you. All right, anybody else before we move to the mayor? Mr. Mayor, do you have anything at this point?
I do not.
Okay, we'll catch you later then. All right, we'll move to item number 5, which is new business. Discussion with possible action, use of septic tank system and well for household water at 916 Northwest 7th Street. And this is under Mr. Robert McPherson. I know both Mr. McPherson and staff have given us some items tonight to contemplate, so if you'll get those in your hand, so for reference. Mr. McPherson, we've stated your name and we've stated your place of residence, so you have the floor.
Thank you very much. This is my first time I've ever approached the city government, so I hope you all will bear with me. I might stammer a little bit, but I'm going to do my best to try to present our case.
You're at home, so carry on.
I am at home, thank you. For the record, my name is Robert McPherson, and with me tonight is my wife, Natalie. We currently reside at 949 Northwest 7th Street, and our future residence will be at 916 Northwest 7th Street, which lies approximately on 10 acres and was originally part of the Stonehenge farm property. Tonight we would like to discuss the following topics. 1, petitioning the City Council to grant us the right to use a septic tank system and well water for our proposed house. 2, granting our property the zoning designation use as agricultural. And 3, special exemption state versus city. Thank you, council members, for your time in helping us to come to a suitable solution regarding the topics to be presented. This has been a very long and frustrating process. Our single goal is to receive a building permit in order to build our home and farm and to enjoy being a part of this wonderful community. We are asking the council to act tonight regarding topic 1, septic and well. Topics 2 and 3 may be taken at a future from research on your part. We started the process of making our utility needs known to the Utilities Department on February 10th at a meeting on our property. At the end of our meeting, the supervisor made a comment that we were going to be guinea pigs. Well, now I know what a guinea pig is. At the time we did not, but now we know. So our building permit has been with the city since the 2nd of May, pending your resolution on septic and water. We're petitioning the council to let us use a septic tank as per the following reasons. Financial hardship. The cost would be substantially less than connecting to city sewer. We have an estimate to install the septic tank at $4,409, and you will be able to see that on Addendum 1. City sewer cost estimate for materials, if you bought it through the city, is $4,243, and for materials and $3,856 for the grinder pump. We would have to pay for the labor and additional supplies. We would also have to get an encroachment agreement from the Florida Gas Transmission Company in order to dig under their pipeline. This would add greatly to our cost. We were told by FGT that it would have to go 3 feet under their current line, which is about 4 feet underground currently right now, making it over 7 feet to 8 feet underground that we would have to go under. Our personal cost to install this would be $66,434, and you can please see the quote on Addendum 2. As per the city ordinance, which is Addendum 3, and your ordinance is section 40-106, no septic tank other than those approved by the state and the county authorities shall be constructed within the corporate city limits. No septic tank shall be constructed or used where a sewer line is available within 200 feet of the property line. Our property line is about 446 feet from the sewer city line. Figure 1, please. The distance from our property line to our house is about 550 feet. This distance would be about 1,000 foot run. The city does not plan to extend any of their lines to our property. So the city sewer is well over 200 feet from our property line as stated in the city ordinance. We are on 10 acres of land, and the septic tank would not interfere with adjacent properties nor the aquifer. Many surrounding properties within our area are on septic. The Pegstons, who live right in front of us, are on septic. The house that we're renting right now on 7th Street are on septic as well. I don't know how many more houses are on septic. It is the state of Florida DEP, via the Levy County Health Department, that grants septic tank development and not the city. We're petitioning the council to let us use a well as per the following reasons. We need irrigation to support our farm as well as for our house. The cost of our well was $7,600. Added cost would be to get an encroachment agreement from the Florida Gas Transmission Company and dig over the pipeline, again adding greatly to our cost, as per stated for the septic tank. The city quoted the pipeline and the meter at $7,500. Not included are running the line. The Addendum 3, which is your city ordinance, wells constructed for private water supply in locations where the cost of connection to public water utility would exceed the cost of the proposed private supply well and pumping station by a factor of 2.5 times. We would have to run the water line, as we stated, under the gas line. Our personal cost to install that would be $17,351. And that's also in Addendum 4. This is well above the 2.5 times as per the city ordinance. As stated above, we would have to run the gas lines under FTG, which would be digging underground 7 feet. Again, we believe this would be a financial hardship to us and total approximately over $83,000. The Florida Department, DEP, the Levy County Department of Health, and the Southwest Florida Managed Water District, it is our contention that the above agencies regulate the permitting of septic and well fields and not the city. If these agencies, through their permitting procedures, allow us to have septic and well field, then it's their governance. Before we purchased our land regarding to property zoning, we were told by the representing realtor that the land was zoned AR, A1, R1. So we were under the impression it was listed as ag, and it was confirmed by the city planner as well as the Levy County ag status. And please, if you would like to, refer to Addendum 5 and Addendum 6. We met with the city planner in March to apply for rezoning. At that meeting, we were ready to pay for rezoning, but she told us not to, and that it would not have to pay the fee. She said that she would be taking care of the zoning. Working on to special exemption. We were planning to use the majority of a portion of our property for agricultural purposes, horse stables, cattle breeding, and edible mushroom cultivation. The city states that we need special exemption for ag uses such as horse stables, permits, and a barn. Please see addendums number 7 and 8, and these emails are from Florida State Representative Chuck Clemens and Assistant Mike Murphy. Florida State Statute FF 604.50 precludes the ability of local governments to regulate agricultural operations on non-residential buildings. Therefore, the city has no regulatory authority over the ag buildings or the animals. In the ordinance, which is your section 5, 60-172, the city requires a 300-foot setback on an 8-acre parcel. I believe that this must be a typo, because it must be 30 feet, because looking at that, it would be almost impossible to build any building on any land that has a 300-foot setback. The city states that they require design plans for a pole barn, and this has to be a mistake. Ag is exempt from zoning restrictions if it's an ag land. As previously stated, it has been a long and frustrating process to obtain our building permit. We thank the council for your attention, and we hope that you will vote in favor of our request, as per the overwhelming evidence that we have presented. We also thank you for looking into the agricultural zoning request and your ordinance as per special exemption. We just have 2 questions. Will you vote tonight on our septic and well request? And how long will it take to get our building permit in hand since this delay has taken so long? Please let me know if you have any questions, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. McPherson.
Thank you.
I can tell you this is the first time this council, you don't have to leave, you can stay. This is the first time this council has seen this. I know staff has been dealing with it. I have heard from a few of them in preparation for this meeting. I'm not sure whether our attorney has been involved in it or not. She's shaking her head no, so that may be something. And I know I have differences of opinion of some of the things that you have stated. I don't know how the rest feel, and this is the one that counts. The attorney is the one that counts. So, has anybody else got any questions for Mr. McPherson? Let's talk about the septic and the well.
Okay, I mean,
That's what we need to do tonight.
I understand that the last two pieces that you guys, need to take a look at, but again, we've been working for a long time on the septic and well. Why it hasn't been brought up to you, I'm not sure, but again,
because it wasn't put on our agenda, and you put it there, so that's great.
Okay.
I'm glad you did.
But, I think that looking at your ordinance at 200 feet, and also looking at the hardship, of financial hardship for us, it seems to me, and very close to black and white, what your ordinance is saying, is that we should be granted, the permission to have that, and sort of move on with our building permit.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, you have a question?
Yes, I have a couple if I may. Mr. McPherson, when I look at your drawing here, I'm trying to establish in my mind where your future home is going to be.
Okay.
Now, you say it's next to Stonehenge and it's 10 acres.
Walk us there.
Yes. Okay, if the entrance to our property is off of Northwest 7th Street,
Yes.
and that's between 912 and 920.
Are you on the parcel behind my house?
I believe so.
Do you know where the Pinkston's house is?
I do.
I'm directly behind the Pinkston's house.
So not as far down. Yeah, he's pretty close to behind you.
So I'm not sure where your house is, sir, but that's where we are. So, and we've been given that designation as 916. So we are the property behind that.
Have you been cutting down trees
Mayor Goodman,
and clearing?
he is not the property that's behind your house.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
We've had some trees cleared, yes.
I have no problem with it. I'm
Yes.
just trying to identify because
Yes,
this
sir.
map doesn't help me identify
It is-
where the property.
Yes, sir. It's really hard to get everything on the map, but if you go behind the Pinkston's property, we are dead back of their property, and we go back to the Stonehenge farm.
And this used to be Stonehenge, and it was separated from Stonehenge
It would,
put into the city.
that I do not know, sir.
That's true.
All I know is when we bought the property. I
Yeah.
guess it is. I mean,
There
I'm
were
not
like
clear on
3
that.
10-acre parcels back there at the time when
There
they
were
separated.
4 10-acre parcels.
Okay, 4 10 acres.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good,
Yes,
yes.
ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And I believe they had county zoning as ag when they came
Yes,
into
ma'am.
the city.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
not sure what they were designated. That seems to be the question. I guess
We-
we'll have to get there.
Yeah, well, I mean, the county designated us as ag.
Which doesn't, which is not us.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Right.
ma'am. Up until May.
It was annexed, right, up until May.
Well, that's when we
It
were
was-
informed by the county that we no longer met the ag qualification.
Well, when
The-
it was
the
annexed
appraiser-
into the city is when it would have been changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was no longer theirs once it was annexed, and I don't know what year it was annexed. But it's been quite a while, I wanna say before 2009.
I think the biggest confusion is that people are thinking that this property is part of the original Stonehenge plat, which is actually part of Mr. Goodman's plat. There's 2 properties underneath, the McPherson's property that is part of the old plat, and his is separate. Why it was designated residential, I have no records. My zoning map hasn't been updated in over 20 years, and it's yellow, and that's residential. No, it shouldn't be residential, and I agree with that. The only thing that I was trying to explain was that we don't have an ag exemption in the city.
Right.
So you're not gonna get a tax break from us.
Yep.
And we still need our things to be up to building code.
And we still need permits,
Yes.
whether the state does or not.
So
That was one of the things I disagreed with. And it doesn't, Mr. Clements may not know that, Representative Clements may not know that, and what the state says in that matter, not necessarily what pertains in the city limits.
Now, there are certain things, pole barn without power, without concrete, without water, that doesn't necessarily need a design. But if you're having a barn with power, water, concrete, and everything else, it needs to be designed like a regular building. The other thing is, we don't have an ag exemption for taxes. The county may or may not give it to you, and it doesn't really matter whether you're ag or residential, but it all depends on what business that you're doing on your property. So, and that takes 2 to 3 years to get, and that's just for a tax break, that's all that is.
We're not looking for tax break, we're just trying to do what I'm looking at the statutes coming from the state.
Okay, let's get back to the
Yeah, to the septic.
water and the septic.
So the other thing I wasn't aware of is this relocation or the 7 feet deep. This is the first time I've seen this actual document. Have you given this document to city staff before, showing it was $66,000?
No, I did not, because I just received this because I had to get this from our contractor in order to get the quotes from them. And I also was talking to FGT people in order to be able to get that information back to us. I would have had this a lot sooner, knowing, that I would have to stand up with you all, and be able to go through this process. I was hoping that we were going to be able to solve this, with what's in front of us, with your ordinances that you already have.
Yeah, so I first time I've seen this amount of money. What I've been led to believe is that they're very close in price in the sense of what it would take to put in a septic and what it would take to run the grinder pump and the line out to the road. And then, my whole issues are is, well, what does the municipal code actually say and how do we interpret it? Which is what my big questions are. So this is the first time I've seen this cost. So if this is the cost, right, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. And I actually got that quote in today. So, I was rushing to try to get it. Again, I was also, rushing to try to get the information from FGT and what their regs were of being able to go under their current gas line.
And is there an addendum that has to do with
No, ma'am, I don't have that.
Yeah,
I have that email that I
see that.
couldn't get it all, but yes, I do have that email that I have from them.
Okay.
That states exactly how far under we need to go.
And that you need to go. Mr.
Yes.
Barber, I see your hand.
I'm wondering if the quote for the 66,000 was at 7 feet for the entire water line, the entire distance of the property, or if it was just 7 feet in that small little section.
It was 7 feet from being able to dig under that and then come back up.
Yeah, they'd have to
It's
slope
not
it.
7
Have to
feet.
slope it under
It's
and
not
slope it
7
under.
feet through the whole property.
Okay.
It's just going under and making it far enough to be able to go under that and then come back up.
And then, like I said, as Mr. McPherson?
Pearson.
McPherson.
Pearson. So now I know we're on first name basis. And we talk. So I know the one thing we talked about, going back to the ag zoning, we had talked about he's willing to go back and do that through the planning and zoning.
Yes.
Just as it's prescribed to do in our municipal code. And to go that route and do that. So that, to me, that was really not an issue because it would then follow the municipal code. The only real two big things that I had, was the placement of the well, the putting of the well in there, and of course its cost. But once again, from looking at this cost of $17,000, the municipal code clearly stated that it exceeds 2.5 times the cost, of doing it, then, we may have to grant him, the right to do that. So my questions were to the staff, and we could not really figure it out, is how does this situation reflect on the municipal codes, and what is the position, of the city council, and how do they read it, and what does it read? The municipal code was written in 1958, was the first one. I think it was changed in 1985. So to me, it does, and I provided y'all with those two municipal codes. Plus, I gave you the second one, specifically talks about the well field management zone and the way you have to go do that. So those are really the only two big issues that I have. I would love to work with Rob and do whatever we can to make him a part of the city, but I also need to make sure that whatever we do is well within the municipal codes. And
Welcome, Mr. Walker.
Madam President, is this on?
Yes, it is.
I agree with the city manager and his assessment. My suggestion to the council would be, as Kirsten said just a moment ago, this is just coming to us for the first time now. This is the first we've heard of it. It sounds like staff has been working with Mr. McPherson and his wife for some time, and there is a need for this to be expedited. I'm familiar with ag exemptions and pole barns, but it seems like there's that question, but really the question, probably the most important question at this stage is, does he have to hook up to the wastewater system or not, and that sort of thing. And as our manager just said, is there an exemption from the code? I've known Rob and Natalie for probably 30 years, maybe longer than that, maybe 40 years. They're honorable folks. I will commit to this council and to the McPhersons that we will have an opinion. It sounds like we need to work with staff in your manager's office and get an opinion and interpretation of your code and cite the sections and get that done post haste. We'll try to get that done immediately. Certainly by your next meeting, we'll have an opinion letter. We'll try to gather as much of the facts as we can. It sounds like Rob and Natalie will have additional information coming to us as well, and to the manager. And so we'll try to get this done immediately. If that sounds acceptable to all parties here.
I can tell you, let's talk about it with this group. They may want to go forward with the well and septic at this time. I can tell you that I'm not sure when our next meeting is going to be, and I hate to delay them that long.
One of the things I do want to point out is if you look at section 50-1, one of the things that has struck me as I've sort of been looking at it now is it's very clear that after a recommendation has been provided to the city council by planning and zoning, so the well at least, even if we do say it meets the requirements of this section, which it very well may, it would need to have a recommendation through planning and zoning first before it came to this council.
That was my question, if it had been there or not. You haven't seen it. I'm looking at the chairman of planning and zoning. You haven't seen this.
We haven't seen it.
Yep. Then we may have to delay it for that reason, if nothing else.
The other question that I have is based on this documentation that I'm looking at, figure 1. Does anyone know?
And when you say figure 1, do you mean addendum 1?
The one that looks like this. It just says figure 1 on it, so just the
It
Google
says
map
figure 1 with
picture.
the picture I was questioning.
The ordinance is such that, and the reason that we have this ordinance, almost certainly, I'd have to check with our finance director, but I was speaking with Scott, and one of the reasons that cities have ordinances like this is because it's a bond requirement. In order for us to get the money, build all the things that we've built for the city, we have to meet certain requirements. It would be absolutely catastrophic for the city to just make a decision that is contrary to those requirements, because it could have financial repercussions that are in the millions of dollars. So we certainly don't want to do that. But my question is specifically regarding the property line. Your ordinance requires that no septic tank can be constructed where the sewer line is available within 200 feet from the property line. I see that it's 400 feet from the property line, the road to the property, but I'm wondering where the other end of the property is, because it almost looks like
We almost need a survey.
closer to
Do you have a survey or a plat?
Yes, I do.
We probably need that.
I mean, it's actually, Google Maps is not accurate. I did a walkthrough on a tape.
Right.
It's 446 feet from the road. Now, I don't know if the sewer line is at the road or not, because I didn't have that, but I started at the road and went to our property line, and it was 446 feet.
And that's the
Talking
closest
about-
property line to the road?
That's, yes. I mean, unless you're gonna go through somebody else's property.
You're talking about the placement of the well.
That's what I'm
She's
so
talking about where the well has to be.
Oh, well, the well. That really, the well, the well is gonna be in the back of the property.
Right.
It's gonna be no more than, probably 50 feet from our property, the west property line.
So generally speaking, what I just want to make sure that we clarify, I think that this is one of the issues that we'll need to make sure that we're clear on as we sort of run this down in the next couple of days to make sure that we're all on the same page. But the sewer line, generally speaking, when it says 200 feet from the property line, it's the closest property line, whatever property line is closest to that sewer line.
Right.
200 feet from there, and you're not permitted to, based on our bond requirements, build a septic tank. You must connect to the sewer line.
Right.
So those are things that we need to make sure that we're certain enough about that we're willing to go to a bank and say we promise we did it right.
So are you saying the property lines, that property that's in front of him, is their property line, since their property line is 200 feet?
So it would be whatever's
Where the
closest.
sewer
And it's
ends.
sort of hard to tell from the map, and I'm not quite oriented. But we just need to make sure that where the sewer line is, wherever the closest point of the sewer line for the city has to the closest point on the property line is 200 feet, more than 200 feet. If that's not the case, then our hands are really tied here, I think. So those are sort of the issues that we'll need to run down.
And I was hoping that, that the city utility department already had that since we made this request back in February. This information should be here and available.
Did you give them a survey or a plat?
They have that, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
They didn't. We walked it out. I mean, we knew exactly where where things were going. So it's all been there. To have that.
Now, I will say, I believe that your well is already in place, correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
Right. So,
Now,
Your well's already there?
Yes, it is. The county or the Southwest Water Management District gave us permission to put the well in with the certified well installation.
Did they know you were in the city?
All I did was go to them and ask them to have it, and I'm sure that they looked it up, because when I talked to Southwest Florida Management just a little while ago, they said it was fine. Everything is on their website. If you want to take a look at that, that's all there for them.
That's not what I'm hearing over here at all.
So question.
Madam
Oh.
President,
I'm hearing two people back here. If you'll let me first. Yes, ma'am.
they do have a permit from Southwest Florida Management District.
I know, but did they know
Should
that?
they have had it?
But should they have one? Did they know they were in the city, and is this requirement met?
I understand your question, but I just want to make sure that you knew that they did get that permit.
Well, I'm not saying they didn't.
Okay, I'm sorry, I
I
thought
don't
that
think
you
they
were.
put in a well without a permit, because I know a well driller
They
would not
didn't-
put it there without a permit.
Yeah, they didn't go through the city though for the city.
I know, that's why I'm saying they're supposed to go through there
Yes, ma'am.
before they go to Southwest Water,
Yes, ma'am.
actually to the Lee County Health Departments, where most people go. Mr. Barber, I'm seeing you too. Yeah, something else?
Well, I just wanted to let you know, when the survey was brought up to staff, the city ordinance section 40-106, staff came to a different interpretation of, I think, than maybe what everybody else was. When we read no septic tank other than those approved by the state and county authorities should be constructed within the corporate limits of the city, we took that as a statement for within the city limits. When it says no septic tank shall be constructed or used where a sewer line is available within 200 feet of the property line, we interpret that as referring to those properties that were outside of the city limits, or at the very least that it had to be within 200 feet, but it didn't exclude things that were longer than 200 feet based on financial feasibility for the city. So that's how staff, utilities does not have any issue stating that from the closest sewer line to the closest property line that we disagree with the assessment that it's over 200 feet. We were simply disagreeing with the interpretation of that language. And that was where the ambiguity that Terry mentioned came in as to how we were looking at that statement.
So is it farther than 200 feet?
From our assessment, it is. Now,
Okay.
I agree with the city attorney. I think that needs to be defined maybe by the engineer. So it's not just a staff assessment, but
Yeah.
yes, it is our conclusion that it is.
That's good to know.
Again, but we came to a different interpretation on the language.
Right. Okay, and Ms. Hines?
Can you hear me?
So the gas line, is it part of our gas line?
We don't own it, but it is in the city limits,
No,
yes.
The gas line is owned by the Florida Transmission Company.
It-
They're a large
Goes to our gate station.
Yeah, it goes through the gate station and it crosses many people's property within the city and the county.
Mr. Robinson, I heard you click on your mic.
Yeah, your property is it on the south side corner? Is it close to 818 Northwest 7th Street? Duran, Castro, Efrain Duran?
The only properties that I am aware of is between 912 Northwest 7th.
Now, I'm not talking about there. There's another road.
Yeah. Where do you get, what road do you use?
7th Street.
I know, but where do you turn off 7th Street to get to your property?
Between 912 and 920.
So, who is that? Do you know?
Well, I know that
No.
the Pinkstons very well. The Pinkstons are, again, our closest neighbor and right behind us.
Are they one of those addresses?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
They're 912.
Okay, great.
I do
That's
not
what
know.
I was
I do not know who lives at 920.
Councilman Robinson is referring to Northwest 9th Ave, which is just north of there.
Well, I was looking
It's
at the
Northwest
property-
9th Ave.
Property county appraiser, and they screwed it up. Okay, it's 9th Ave.
And yes, we have some sewer down there, but I don't think that would be any closer to the property line from that angle.
How, does it go to that house there at that property?
It does, but there's a property between Mr. McPherson and the properties at Northwest 9th Ave. So there's like a whole parcel in between.
Like a 10-acre parcel
Yes,
in
ma'am.
between?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, this shows right here that this is his property. That's right next to that address.
I'm pretty sure there's a parcel between.
It's showing his name on it?
Doesn't show it here. Doesn't show it here. And if there is sewer connected to that address, then the closest property line would be the 200 feet. And if it's within that 200 feet to that address, then based on the ordinance here,
And
you can't pick, I don't think you can pick and choose
which
where
one?
you're looking at from the property line, from the sewer line to your property line or whatnot. But if you've got a closer property with sewer, I think that property should be taken into consideration and if it's within that 200 feet, then the municipal code would be applicable.
And you think it's contingent, and contiguous?
He's talking about Northwest Line.
Right here.
You click on that,
It does look contiguous.
No. Are you guys talking about Northwest 9th Avenue?
That's what he just said.
I'm saying if they're talking about the street that goes up that way.
On the property appraiser's website, if you click on one spot, it's got his name. If you click on the other spot, it's got Castro.
Well, that's why we suggested, that the engineer should look at this, because, I mean, I'll be honest with you guys, we could give our opinion, but it would be better to have Wright Pierce look at this and say definitively what is the closest spot and how many feet. That would be our recommendation. I don't know if Kirsten would agree with that, but that would be the safe thing to do.
You know how I love the safe side.
I do, and if it is closer, it may save him a whole lot of money. He may could actually tie into it.
So did you say Pinkston has a septic or?
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am. They're
Pinkston
on
does.
septic.
But this house doesn't that we're talking about, and it looks like it's contiguous to his property.
But Pinkston's house is ready.
That's what he said.
Madam President, if I may.
Yes,
I think
please.
that these are all a litany of wonderful reasons. Like Scott said, we are happy to bulldog this to make sure that this gets done. We have an opinion for you as soon as possible. We get it through the appropriate channels, but I don't think that we have enough information tonight for me to make a recommendation that anyone would be happy with.
I totally agree with that.
I have to take my attorney's.
No, ma'am. I'm following what
Yeah.
what the communication's being here tonight, and I want to do what's right, and within the right things to do. I mean, I was totally unaware of what Councilman Robinson brought up at all, and I'm just going on my teacher experience. I'm not an engineer.
You did good.
I'm not a public servant or anything like that. So this is again new to me, and if we can work something out, that's what I wanna do.
Right.
You know, that's what I really wanna do. We wanna get our building permit,
I know
so,
you do.
you know, we can get on with building our our house.
Right. Okay, I don't see any other recourse except to table this for tonight and I put it on our next agenda and we'll go from there. Hopefully we can accomplish it at that point.
So we have to wait until you guys meet again?
Afraid so.
Does he also need to go before?
It sounds like you need to go to planning and zoning
You
as
may
well.
need to go before planning and zoning, but it's one of the things that I'd like to take a little bit longer look at to make sure that we're following all the proper procedures.
And he'll have some time if he does need to ask me on that.
Correct.
And maybe
We'll
they
make sure it
can,
gets to
maybe they can do that in between when it comes back to us.
Well, I know that we're planning on going on vacation, as a lot of people will be planning on vacation in July, so, you know, I'm not sure if I'm gonna be here when you guys are having your meeting, so is there any way or any contact person?
Or when does planning and zoning meet again?
The end of the month?
The end of this month, so in June. Okay. Yeah, if they can get it, because Kirsten goes to every planning and zoning commission meeting.
Yes, I do.
So she'll be there, and Mr. Fuller is the chair. They both heard the full discussion. So, and it's at the end of June. What is it, the fourth Monday? Fourth Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Fourth Tuesday. So that's when they will meet. We are considering on later in our agenda whether we're gonna, our next meeting falls on the 4th of July. We're obviously not meeting on the 4th of July. We're trying to decide when we will meet, or whether we're gonna skip it altogether.
It's only June 6th.
Oh yeah, we meet again in May, yeah, sorry about that. We do, but they're not gonna meet before then.
Right, they'll meet after us.
Right.
So will I have to be present at the meeting in July, or the end of June, because we are planning to leave the 22nd of June?
We'll keep up to date with you and make sure that you have all the information that we have, and we can make a call. I mean, it's ultimately up to you whether you'd like us to put it on the agenda or wait longer. But you'll have all the information that we'll have. If you're comfortable with the information and recommendation that we have at that point, then you wouldn't be required to be here.
So he's not required to be here.
And we also have call-in feature, so you can call in and listen and ask questions if you want to. They don't normally do that for planning and zoning, but we can certainly do it.
We can do it for planning and zoning
Yeah.
and code enforcement and CRA. I just need 24 hours notice.
Right, so you can, no matter where you are in the world, you can call in. Because it was what Aaron's doing back there now, he's monitoring the people that are online. We actually put up a video and you can see and interact that way.
Do you know when you would have that meeting to determine whether that property that Mr. Robinson talked about is actually a viable property to be able to look at? Is there anybody that can tell us that quickly?
I think staff would.
We would get with Walt and Dennis tomorrow, and we would have it start
Actually,
working on it.
it's in the packet here. You can see where that property is,
Yes,
right
sir.
there on that corner.
I want to confirm that we do in fact have service and then have the engineers take a peek at it.
And Walt is the gentleman who addressed the golf carts earlier, so he will be available for that as well. He's one of our city engineers.
And our office can try to set up a meeting between us and staff either later this week or early next week to circle up and everybody have the information that they need to
Yep.
talk about.
I'll just keep Mr. McPherson in the loop.
If I could just make a suggestion.
Yes, sir.
to Mr. McPherson, that I be his contact for the city, and that you come and work back through me. I think it's a little cleaner, and then we kind of have an understanding of what everybody's doing.
You have a card for him?
I have Terry's.
And he has my cell phone number, but you don't need to publish it tonight.
No.
But he has it.
Why
All
not?
right, thank you very much.
Everybody's got mine, might as well have yours. Okay, so we'll hopefully get there by our meeting in July, excuse me. July.
We have a meeting on June 20th.
June 16th.
It's after us?
Yeah, they're the last Tuesday of the month.
Oh, okay.
You'll at least have more information.
That's right.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir, thank you. Sorry we didn't do what you wanted us to do, but.
No, you didn't, but you can't always get what you want.
Yeah, we just got more fish in the fire here now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, we're gonna move then to item B, which is discussion with possible action on fire assessment. Chief Lamar Stiegel.
Yes, ma'am. Recently, I've been asked several times about looking at some of this information. I've compiled some information and went to the mayor with it. He and I sat down And he thought that I should bring it to the council before we went any further of even gathering information for possible discussion and looking at in the future. I did email out, I've attached quite a bit of the information I've already gained. I've talked to some of you about it briefly, but I didn't know if y'all wanted to pursue this, or if you wanted me to research it more, or what actions you would like to take on it.
Okay, if you go to page 13 in your packet, on your Rolodex here, and that's where the dollars start, and it's the study that would have to be done first, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Before we do anything else, we have to hire one that's like certified to do it.
Government Services Group is one that's been used. We would also have to work with our legal team also in this.
Okay. And that is all, of course, laid out right here on this page 13. So you see the dollar amount. And you also go a little farther, you'll see the revenue that would be generated. And I'm going to ask a stupid question. And I try really hard not to ask questions I don't know the answer to already. But when the county does a fire assessment, do people inside the city limits pay the fire assessment?
No, ma'am.
Terrific. That's what I wanted to
I
hear.
asked that question too.
So I'm not the only one that's. You'd think I'd look at my tax. I know what my taxes are and I pay my taxes, but I don't look at the individual, whatever that's called.
Yep, it's usually attached up on the top.
Yes.
Of your tax. Yep.
And you see it the first time, but you don't see it again.
Right.
It never shows it again, except for the very first time when you receive it. And I couldn't remember if we got taxed or not. Okay, so you're not getting double taxed. That's what I wanted to hear. So all the people that are in the city limits are not currently paying a fire assessment unless their city has one.
Correct. In our city, nobody pays a fire assessment.
And our city doesn't. I realize that.
Yeah.
That's why he's asking for one. And you see the examples of what he's got here. You see the example, I think he's chosen the lowest one, essentially, that he saw. And he's given you the estimated revenue that it would produce.
Now, the one that you're talking about, the one for the city of Williston.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. That is just based off of the lowest figure and just residential. That doesn't take into consideration commercial, industrial, or anything like that. Now, remember, you can exempt people from this. You can exempt not-for-profits. You have to make that money up in the general fund or utility fund somewhere. It has to come from somewhere if you exempt the not-for-profit. Places that you give tax breaks to do not get the assessment. I'm sorry, will still be assessed. I said that wrong. I got stabbed by an ink pen right then.
So they are assessed the tax, and then you exempt the tax. You forgive the tax.
You can. Yes, ma'am. That's up to you.
If that's the way you write it.
Right.
Madam President, we are very familiar with Government Services Group. Under the statute, we work with them a great deal, and we have a lot of confidence in their ability to work within the statute and specifically delineate what the amount of your fire assessment should be. If you do it wrong, there is a municipality in our area that did it improperly, and they are paying back to the residents millions of dollars. So you want to be very careful about how you approach this if you implement the fire assessment. As you just heard, if you wanted to allow the county to do the fire assessment, you have to specifically pass an ordinance to allow the county to do the fire assessment within the city, but there's no good reason for you to do that here because you have your own fire services. The amount of money that you're looking at for the study is a one-time fee, and then for successive years it goes way down. They just look at your tax rolls and they certify as to the fire assessment on a yearly basis thereafter. Every 3 or 4 years, they will do a study again so that to make sure that your fire assessment is in keeping with where it should be, so that the high dollar figure that you see here happens about once every 3 to 4 years. And then it goes down for a number of years until they have to redo the study. So that's how.
Can you use the revenue generated by the fire assessment to do the study after you've passed
I
it?
believe you were able to do that.
That would be nice.
That was my question, if we could
Yeah.
make sure we paid ourselves back.
Yes, sir, you
the
can.
money.
Yep.
And
That
it seems
was,
to me every city in the county is doing it but us.
every city except Cedar Key. They have a city that is covered by a CRA umbrella, the whole city.
Oh, that's true, the whole city's covered. And their CRA pays their for their fire department?
Their CRA bought their last ladder truck.
Interesting. Okay, all right, so you see the dollar amount, you see the amount of the revenue, even just on residential. We need to give our chief some direction.
I have one question.
Yes, Mr. Robinson.
Where's the money coming from for the study?
I haven't looked into that. I didn't know how far you guys would want to go with this.
Yeah, first we need to decide if we want to do it, then he can look for the money. I mean, we're not giving him permission to do it, except consensus that we want him to find it.
I'd say go ahead and let's do it if we can find the money to proceed with the study.
I have,
Hold on, Mr. Bullock's got the floor.
real quick too, is there a way that we can put something in where we can use the profits saved to go into general or reserves or anything along them lines to help offset anything?
Strictly for fire.
But with the profit saved, so the
correct me
money
if I'm
that
wrong.
we're paying into the fire department right now.
Oh, yeah.
We
Just
can,
keep
the
it.
money that we're saving, having to pay them, we can place somewhere.
I would say put it into an account.
You don't have to give it to
So when
them.
they gotta buy a new fire truck.
Yeah.
The money's there.
Years ago, we did all of the research for a fire assessment. And, and I'm not telling you what you need to do. I mean, we went right down to the final day of implementing it or not, and it was voted not to do it. At that time, the amount raised from the assessment was going to be, would allow us to drop the millage rate by 0.9 mils in the city.
Whoa. Holy cow.
Now, I'm not telling you to do that. I'm trying to give you an example of what could have happened or regrettably, we chose at that time years ago to kick the can down the road, and so now we're looking at that sort of thing again.
Now we're borrowing money to buy trucks. Mr. Mayor, it's your turn.
Did I hear you say that this $20,000 has to be redone every 3 years?
I believe it's 3 to 4 years, typically in my
But
experience.
you can pay it out of the assessed, the dollars.
But every 3 or 4 years, thank you. Hi, everybody that couldn't hear me, I can't hear it. Is it actually working? So every 3 or 4 years, the city will have to spend $20,000 to $25,000. Plus, in the in-between years, there is a cost which is unknown. Is that accurate?
My experience is, yes, every 3 to 4 years, there is the $20,000 study approximately. In the intervening years, GSG charges somewhere around $5,000 to $7,000 in my experience. That's kind of what you're looking at. And the point that I was making earlier is, if you're going to have a fire assessment, you need to do that because they study specifically your tax rolls, and then they implement the fire assessment based upon the budget, and they work with Chief Stiegel to come up with numbers that can be defended if somebody wanted to challenge a fire assessment. So that's why you have to have somebody that is extremely proficient in this area do the study, so you're in a defensible situation.
So I recall that period that you're talking about, and the reason the council chose not to do it was because of the reoccurring cost. I'm not suggesting that's a good reason, but that is why the council chose not to go ahead with this fire assessment, because of the reoccurring cost. And there is the issue of, what are you going to do? We have businesses in this city that if they're forced to come up to a fire code, they will go out of business, and there's a lot of them.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
to touch on that last comment, we're not talking about implementing in-city fire inspections.
Yeah, they're not.
We're not talking about going door to door.
This is just the assessment for having fire protection.
That is correct.
Because you and I also talked about the other thing, and I.
Yeah, we are not going down that avenue.
I don't know, Aaron, what this means.
I'm talking to
He's talking to somebody else.
Sign language.
Ignore him.
I'm trying to
Yes,
be quiet.
I only
Yes,
know
sir.
that because Ms. Hines was doing it back at him.
So question, so this is not a fixed amount, right? So over the years, it could increase, but with the fire assessment, you may or may not have money to actually pay for that and it not come out of a different fund. Is that what you're saying?
The fire assessment is used by municipalities or counties, however you want to look at it, to fund their fire service. It comes out and it's a way that you can, guarantee a funding mechanism, so to speak, of paying for emergency services. Just like in Levy County, we implemented this years ago, and I worked hand in hand with Levy County because they didn't have a fire department at that time, helping them with their assessment. It doesn't change the inspections, doesn't change the level of service at this time, but everybody pays. There's no exemptions unless this council gives them an exemption. Many of the cities have hardship exemptions for people who can't have problems with their electric bill, if you will, if they're low-income housing and stuff like that. You can make an exemption for that. You can adopt any amount. We could look at it and say, you know what, to totally fund the fire department off this assessment is going to be too much money right now. We're going to fund part of it out of the utility fund and part of it out of the assessment. You can do that. You can adopt any amount. What GSG will do is they'll give you a study that'll start at zero and it'll go to fully funding every inch of the fire department. And generally speaking, most municipalities, most governments adopt somewhere in between.
That was a question I had, is do you have to accept the dollar amount they give you?
No.
Okay, that's nice to hear. Okay. And the only thing I'm still considering it because he said we could pay it out of this revenue that's generated. And if we can make $133,000 and pay 20 to get it,
Every 3 or 4 years.
I'm okay with that.
Right.
Because we make 133 every year.
But not the initial.
Not the initial, that's right. That is
Well,
correct.
but we can pay that back.
I don't know if you can or not. I don't know about the initial payment.
The initial payment,
The initial 2025 may not can come out of the revenues that are generated.
they accept payment plans. They do all kinds of things. I'm sort of laughing about it because it's you can. I think you'd have to make a down payment, then you can make a payment plan. But initially, I think you have to do some upfront costs. I can find out that and bring it back to you.
The question that I think everyone's asking, Fire Chief, is if we pay it up front and we get the assessments the first year, can those assessments be used to pay for the cost of the
Initial study.
initial study?
And I think he's not sure.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Stephen Bloom is online.
Oh, Stephen.
Oh, Mr. Magic.
Okay, Aaron, if you can
Yep,
tap
hang
him
on a
in.
second. Stephen, you have to unmute your mic.
He's probably familiar with those things too.
Why you wouldn't be able to recover all of it?
Try it again. Now you got the floor. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, no, I don't see why you wouldn't be able to recover it all. Normally, when we do assessments, we include all of the costs related to the assessment into it. Any, collection costs, if you're going through the county to collect it, then you can, give them discounts for paying early. Everything gets included all into it. So I don't see why not. I mean, we can certainly do the evaluation, as a part of this next step, to do, kind of what we do with other things, the cash flow. Here's the, the ins and outs of this, so you can see ultimately whether or not you'll get everything recovered.
Okay, so it would be collected by the county on the on the tax bill, and then we would possibly have to pay them something for collection fee. Is that what you're used to?
That would all be included into it.
Okay, and we could pay that out of the revenues that were generated. Did everybody
Correct.
understand that part? Mr. Robinson has a question.
Actually, the city can they can collect the assessment.
How? On utility bill?
Section 234, paren G, paren 1, the city may elect to collect its own assessments.
I know we can, but would it be easier to do it through the tax
Would
bill?
it be easier or less expensive? Is that what you're looking at?
I don't know. We'd have to figure that out.
But the
It
city-
depends on what the county would charge us.
The city can collect.
That's nice to know.
I will say this, our neighbor who got in trouble with their fire assessment collected it themselves.
Ooh. Do all these others do it through the property appraised?
Every municipality I know of, and y'all may know more than me, every municipality I know of collects it through the tax collector's office. It's just a simple, I guess, way. I understand where Mr. Robinson's coming from. I believe there were some of the collections with some of the issues, like they collected on a monthly payment in our neighbor, and they collected like on their utility bill, and there was something about that was not right too. So,
Well, in addition, it says here, the city may elect to collect its own assessments, retain a third party to collect, use a uniform method, or use any other legally available mechanism for collection. So, I'm just bringing it
right.
I appreciate all
front
that.
And
it is available.
And that is something to look at. I mean, I don't know what the cost savings would be there, but what does the tax collector usually
So that's your
skim
next
off the top,
question.
if you will?
Maybe Latricia can ask these other cities that are in the Levy County how much the tax collector charges them to collect their fire assessment. That would be something we would like to know.
So what do we need to do?
I don't know, but I got Mr. Fuller right here with his hand up. If you will, come to the podium, sir.
Albert Fuller, resident. I wanted to, just for context, I see $129 as a potential figure. Do we know, or do you know what the figure is for the county assessment?
It was at $129, and I think they raised it to $159. Don't hold me to that, but I do know it was going up.
It's in our packet, I think.
That's some
Current figure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the current figure is 129. Because it's in our packet. There are some that are as high as 159. There's one, I think 179.
Yeah, I think
223. Here's one that's 223.
I did not include Marion County. I don't believe in that.
No, most of this is a lot.
And theirs is like $290. It's up there.
No, I want it not just. High Springs is 223.
Yeah.
Newberry's 195.
Okay. What I wanted to look at is look at the potential calls inside the city and outside the city. And we need to consider that when we're considering the impact on the residents inside the city.
Good point.
Because I think probably as many calls outside the city as inside the city. Would that be?
There's more calls. Yes, sir. It used to be that it was very.
They pay us.
Yeah.
They pay us a good amount.
But do they pay you per call?
No, we don't.
They pay us a huge amount. That's better than per call.
It is better than per call.
We don't. To give you an idea, that right now the municipalities are all requesting a 16% increase from the county for revenue for the county, and that 16% for us will come out if it is so awarded by the county, would come out to us like I believe it's $54,000 increase this coming year, which would put us over $300,000 a year coming from the county.
No need to fuss about that.
No, that's a good number. Lamar has gone over there and finagled that for us. He's lobbied on our behalf and advocated for his own department, and he's been able to get that. He raises it every
So
year.
do we need to make a motion to?
Well,
let
either
him
give
allow-
consensus. I don't know that you need a motion yet, because unless you just know you want to proceed.
No, you have my consensus to bring back how to get the money, like we talked about, right?
Yeah, like bring back dollar proposals from the company.
Okay, clarify something. I didn't hear Stephen that well. Did he say that the money would be available to do that study?
He said we could.
No, sir.
recoup it.
He said that we could recoup the cost of the study.
Okay. Okay, so if we bring back, the study about how we're going to initially pay for it and whatnot, because, yes, I mean, when we're talking about 3 or 4 years down the road, the larger study that we're gonna have to pay for again, or even the interim, that's gonna be paid out of that assessment proceeds.
Right.
And also, with all the new houses that's coming up here, the assessments are gonna be increased as well.
Yeah.
And so will
Yeah.
the, and so will the
And the
revenue
commercial's not even
as
in there.
well.
Yeah.
The more houses that come in, the more people will be paying that assessment as well.
I'd say let's get the information and bring it back
Yeah,
so
so
that we can look
get us
at
a
it.
contract.
But
Yes,
you
ma'am.
also say there's a potential that you can pay along the way and not have to.
Well,
pay.
that's something that we would, yeah, we would have to
Will you
look
bring
into
that
that.
to us as well?
Sure, I can look into
Yeah,
that.
bring us a contract or proposal, and bring us the payment plan. Maybe we could pay it, like, as Ms. Hines said, as little as we can up front, so that we can recoup it when we get it going. Because it'll take a while to get it going.
Having said that, it may, I may reach out to GSG and see if they wanna come down and actually talk to us.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah,
But it's also gonna be at least a year.
we would implement it this year, and, there's a lot of legal stuff that goes on here. I think we'd have to pass it to be able to use it in the next year. You would have to pass and have a resolution in place and passed by December 31st of this year.
Okay.
There's no way that this is gonna hit this coming year.
We got time, though, that's good.
I just wanted to get this on the board and see what you guys wanted to do, and, get some marching orders, and, I will reach out and work with the experts on it. I hear we've
And it
already got
also
some.
gives us time to look at the budget and as we get ready
Yes.
for the budget.
Yeah, that's right.
And
We'll know by then, that's exactly right.
Okay.
Okay? Works for
Thank
me.
you. And we'll move on. Everybody ready to move? Have got consensus on that from everyone? Mr. Cox, you okay with that? Okay. All right, so we'll move then to, item C, discussion with possible action, discounted natural gas supply, Public Works Supervisor Donald Barber and Thomas Jeffrey.
Very good.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
My name is Tom Jeffrey. I'm General Manager and CEO for Florida Gas Utility. It's a pleasure to see you all again here tonight. So I'm here to talk about another opportunity to lower your cost of gas to your consumers and your residents of Williston. So just a little background on who Florida Gas Utility are, who we are. We are what's called a nonprofit municipal joint action agency. It's a fancy name for a co-op. So we exist to serve our members. We have 25 members, including Williston, and we've been a member since 2002. And one of the main things that we do is we pool everyone's need for natural gas together and buy in bulk. So we buy quite a bit of natural gas every day for all of our 25 members. So we've been doing this for over 30 years. And we are one of the largest, what's called shippers. We move as much gas as most everyone does on the Florida gas transmission system. You've heard quite a bit already tonight. So this discounted natural gas supply is achieved through what's called a prepay transaction. And that is done upstream of where you all are actually buying the gas. So nothing changes for you. You still pay for it in arrears like you always have. And then you bill your customer. It does require a 30-year commitment, and you currently are participating in 4 other of these discounted gas deals. And I'm not sure if Donald got to all his emails today, but one of those 4, the first pricing period is about to expire. You were getting 40 cents discount on that. They've gone out and repriced that, and the new discount starting August 1st on that deal will go up to 47 cents every month, with an additional 3 cents paid out on an annual basis. So instead of 40-cent discount on that transaction for that quantity at starting August 1st of this year will go up to about 50 cents. So that's good news. The entity that is that has done that repricing is also the entity that's doing 2 more transactions. It's Municipal Gas Authority of Georgia, or MGAG. So back when we first started this program, the Board of Directors for Florida Gas Utility recommended that the members consider going up to 80% of their average use, because this is natural gas that you're required to take and use every day. So we don't want to get too much to where you can't do that every day. And so 80% of the average use was the level that the Board of Directors for Florida Gas Utility recommended to its members. So in order to get to that 80% level, you would have 38 decatherms a day of need in the winter months and 67 decatherms a day of need in the summer months. To add on to
So
what?
that's not backwards. When I saw that, I wondered if it was backwards.
No,
It
it
seems
is
like
not.
you use more in the winter than you would in the
Well,
summer.
your grain dryers and your peanut dryers all start up in
So
the
the
summer
crop
months.
dryers are in the summer, so they use way more than we even
Yes.
do to heat our homes.
That's correct.
Wow, that explains that. Thank you.
So we have placed parameters on this, these transactions with Municipal Gas Authority of Georgia. We're requiring a minimum of 45-cent discount. Prior to this, it was 30 cents, but the market conditions have improved such that, as you just heard, we just achieved 50 cents earlier this week. And the 2 or 3 transactions that we've been involved in prior to that achieved greater than 45 cents as well. So we're very optimistic that these discounts can be achieved. Like with the other deals that you're in, these discounts will reprice periodically. About every 5 to 7 years typically is what that initial term is, and then about the same amount of time in each repricing period. And as with all the other deals that you're in, if you lose your natural gas load for any reason, you can get out of this deal, no penalty to you to do so. So the next slide just kind of shows the breakout of the capacity where we are currently at about 48% of your 5-year historical average. And then when you do, if you approve these quantities tonight, it'll get you up to the 80%. And then the slide after that, the discounts that you're currently enjoying on your annual prepay supply of 16,801 decatherms a year. Your annual savings that you're enjoying up to now is about $9,589 a year. When you add these quantities at the minimum of 45 cents, that goes up to almost 26,509. So it's a significant increase in the savings. And as a result of that, we think this is the same deal that you've done 4 other times. We recommend that you do this as well.
I think what I said last time was it was a no-brainer, and I think it still is. So, anybody have any questions for Mr. Godfrey?
So each time we do one of these deals, does it increase our commitment?
Yes.
So it tacks on 5 more years to our commitment. So it says
Every
commitment.
transaction starts a 30-year.
This one's 30 years.
For each one.
But
It doesn't change any of the ones that you're in.
They run simultaneous to each other, yeah.
Yeah, so the ones that you're in, the first one's already run 5 years, okay? And so that's got 25 years left on it, okay? These 2 transactions, we're recommending you split the quantity.
And they reassessed and gave us an extra 15 cents, I think you said.
10 cents.
10 cents, okay.
Yeah, when it went out and repriced.
5 years afterwards, they gave us an extra.
Now, that doesn't mean that's gonna happen every
No, but
time.
it was
It's
wonderful.
market conditions that drive that,
Yeah.
and market conditions are favorable for this at the current time. So all your transactions are 30 years from the date that you started in it, but they don't all run at the same 30-year period. So each one has a different 30-year tranche to it, if you will.
I got a question. So, because it's 30 years like that and we're at, say, 5 years, we don't, I know it'd be stupid not to renew right now, but if we didn't renew, we would just stay where we're at and still continue on towards that 30 years, but when we renew it, relocks it into 30 years.
So you're required to remain in these transactions when they reprice, as long as the discount hits the minimum that is stated up front in these transactions, which has usually been 17 cents is the minimum discount. So as long as they achieve better than that, you're required to stay in the deal. If it's less than that, then you have options as to whether you want to renew that deal or not. But in this case, you have no option because the discount was greater than the minimum.
So if we're within our 30 years and for whatever reason we no longer need the natural gas, does our payment stop there? We still
Yes.
have to continue?
No, you can get out, no penalty, as long as you have that, no longer have need for that gas, and we can document that, which is no trouble. It's in every contract that we can get out with no penalty. And that's not just you, that's anyone, any of our members that are participating.
Any other questions? Great questions, guys. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to move forward with the discounted natural gas supply.
I have a motion and a second. Do you have any further discussion? It was not written as a resolution or an ordinance. Do we need to bring it back as a resolution? Or is this good enough?
Usually we do have an agreement attached to a resolution that's.
So you already have a gas services agreement with us that
Right.
tells us to buy all your natural gas for you. And we will get a directive from you that amends that specifically says that you're authorizing this transaction.
And you'll send the directive to us for signature?
Yes.
Okay, guess that will do.
And that's
All
how
right.
we've done all the other four.
Perfect. All right, so any further questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Oh my goodness, we made it to the second page. Yay. Oh my heavens. Okay. Says open public hearing. As far as I'm concerned, we've been in a public hearing. I have first reading of ordinance 2023-711, an ordinance of the city of Williston, Florida, making certain findings and determinations, amending sections 40-142 and 40-144, and creating section 40-149 of the Code of Ordinances for the city of Williston, Florida, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Public Works Supervisor Donald Barber.
Good evening, council. Ordinance 2023 dash, I think it's 714, correct?
711.
711, I apologize.
Yep.
Accomplishes the following. This ordinance, after study and workshop, gives the electric department an increase in the service availability access charge. It demonstrates the true cost of providing the power system before any consumption is purchased or calculated. This is a fixed cost and will not have effect on the consumable rate. The changes addressed to the fixed base cost will be provided for the next 5 fiscal years. Other changes addressed are the rate stabilization fund creation and the design standards and specifications to protect the city electric system from unchecked development. So I just wanted to present the 3 changes. I do know that one of the things that was suggested is that we give you guys a comparison. There's a sheet to your right. It says electrical and I have natural gas, but this is only the electrical one. And gas rate estimates. On the front page, it'll say current base or service availability fee. And if you flip it around, that is the proposed for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. And you can go through there, the residential charge per meter, the customer charge for general service non-demand, the general.
Robert, it's
yes.
this one, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the one with the logo on the top.
Yes.
We have 3 different ones, but it's the one with the logo.
The other 2 are the gas, this one is the electric.
Sorry to interrupt. Go
No
ahead.
problem. And so if you look at the page that says right underneath, it says electric rate estimates, current base or service availability fee. Those are the current rate structure found in ordinance with the customer charge per meter at $8.71. If you flip to the back page, that is the proposed 2023-2024 fiscal year changes. As you can see, the residential customer charge per meter, $11.52. And you can go on down the line, general service rate non-demand, $16.34. The other side, customer charge, $21.61. General service rate demand for GRDS, that is $27.23 for your base meter charge. And your service customer charge on the other side for the proposed change, $36. And then the last one here, the large rate demand, and that is $54.45 customer charge current, going to the $71.98 for the large demand customer rate. And those are your differences. So I wanted to have that there side by side so there wasn't any, misunderstanding on what was being proposed. So how we looked at the idea and the concept of the industry and speaking to FMEA, FMPA, so on. We took the program, this approach in gas, electric system. What does it cost to have the water, the sewer, all those things? No one turns on the spigot, no one runs their electric, no one, uses gas. So you have a fixed cost. What is the grid cost? What is your service cost to provide your technicians, obviously, your linemen? And so that's basically how we looked at this. And we said, okay, so where do we make the change? We don't want to do it heavily on the consumable rate. We want to do it on that base charge. And we call it a base meter charge, but the more correct term is a service availability fee. What does it cost to make that service available to the residents of the town and within our service district? And so that's what we did. And then we had projected out a few years of changes as we move forward so that this isn't something that we have to go over every single year and have that discussion every single year. So that's what we had, and at this time, if you guys are interested, any questions that you may have, if you go through your packet, we did not change any fees to any charges to the fees themselves. There's no yard light change, there's no footage change, there's no issue with the fees as we accomplished that last year. This deals with the rate structure itself.
Okay, question.
Yes, sir.
So each one of these figures is what each person is paying right now a year, correct? Not a month. So the 871, the 1634, all that is what each person is paying basically a year.
No, sir. That is the monthly charge.
That is a month.
Yes, sir. Every month when they get their bill, that's what it starts out before any consumption.
So then based on my math, with the increases, as the page is flipped over, we're increasing the average customer at $34.38 a month on the average.
On the residential, I came up to $31.54. On the general service, I came up to $35.21. On the general service rate demand, I came up with an average, not including the demand, but $31.90, and the same as the large rate demand, $38.92. Those were the figures I came up with.
Those are the yearly figures.
No, ma'am, those are the monthly.
Those are the monthly figures.
Yes, ma'am.
So an average between basically 30 and 35.
Yes, sir.
Take a month. And that's for the average resident.
Yes, sir. Oh, well, the average resident was the $31.54.
Okay.
As I said, as you go down, $31.54, $35.21, $31.90 on the third category, and $38.92 on the large demand.
Okay, and this has nothing to do with consumption. Once again, this is just the meter reader or whatever, basically.
It is fixed heavily on the base rate. And that's, again, calculated on the OEM, operation and maintenance.
Okay, now, start over again, because I'm seeing this totally different. This says that it's currently $8.71 for for residents, right?
For the base meter charges.
Yes. And that's charged every month, $8.71, and it's going to $11.52.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's only $2.81.
Yes, ma'am, but if you look at your I said it's base heavy. So if you look at your kilowatt per kilowatt, there is an inflationary transaction there. There is an adjustment there as well. So if you take your 1,000 average kilowatt hours on 0.08912, it comes to $89.12 that they pay on average on 1,000 kilowatts. And if you go to the new rate, it's around $117.85. That, including the base meter charge, comes to the $31.54.
Which is why I was offered my $2.81.
I understand what you're saying, but that's not what you said you were going to do.
Yeah, that's so.
Because you raised the kilowatt hour rate, and you just said you didn't raise the kilowatt
No, ma'am, I said
hour
it's base rate dependent. And what I'm saying about
I don't have a clue what that means.
Okay, so again,
And
this is
if
looking.
I don't, nobody else does.
I understand. So as I said, you guys asked for a calculation. That's the calculation long term. Yes, the base rate is the difference of the $2 and some cents.
81 cents.
When FGU looked at going up the percentages to only put it on the base rate solely, the PSC has issues with. So they want to spread out that load. So we could either put this fixed dollar amount solely on the base rate, or we could have done it and spread it out between the two. And that's what was recommended by FMPA and FMEA. That was in the proposal. That was in y'all's packets that we sent out.
So Donald, let me get this right. You added in the average kilowatt
Correct.
hours and the actual cost
Correct.
of the upcharge of the 0.89 in the 1,000 kilowatts per month?
Correct.
So with the added increase in the per kilowatt hours plus the added increase in the customer charge for the meter, you're telling me that the monthly rate per customer is going to go up on the average $31.54.
That's the proposal. That's the proposal for the percentages. For the percentages. And if we go back to the chart, of where Williston is, and we go back to the whole conversation of being the middle to the middle, and we say, okay, where was the town? I think it was Blountstown, and what is the rate? And if you look at the finalized rate of the customer, so we would be at $129.37 on average, the bill here in Williston, and the average for the state, the municipal average is $146.37. That's the middle. So we're still at the middle of the middle. We've only moved up 5 positions, and that's not including what everybody else is going to do this year on rate changes and adjustments. That's why the first year was the 32%, versus all the other years are much, much lower than that. So, again, our average rate, $129.37, and the municipal average on your chart is $146.37, and the IOU average is $162.70. So, once again, we are well below what the average line is on all the municipal providers, and even including in that status Duke Energy, Tampa Electric, FP&O.
I'm sorry, I'm still confused.
Okay.
So, you're saying that we're gonna pay a base rate of $31.54, is that for the meter?
No, ma'am. That's the total all-in cost additionally per month for an average of 1,000 kilowatts of usage, with fixating on the base meter rate and putting in that percentage. So once again, like I said, when
$2.81 of which are for the meter.
Correct.
Only $281 of that are for the meter.
Correct.
The rest is for the kilowatt hour change. Right?
We can go to the meter. We can go back to a meter heavy fixed cost, and I'm okay with that. That what they said is that adjusting your fixed cost that drastically, which is really where we need to be as far as the revenues for O&M, they said that it may get kicked back for the Public Service Commission. And that was the recommendation by Mr. Jody Finkel with FMEA and FMPA. In the future, council could say we want all of it on the base and none on the kilowatt. And the future increases, the 9%, the 7, the 3, the 2, can be done that way. But if we take the 32 and we put it all on the base rate, you're probably going to get some sort of issue with the Public Service Commission. And that's why the first one was done as kind of a spread out metric.
So that amount is on a base of 1,000 kilowatts.
Yes, ma'am.
But if your amount is above 1,000 kilowatts, then it just goes up.
Correct, but the average usage in Williston for residential is 950. So we actually went above the average of what our average bill is when we calculated. The average use in Williston, if you go across the board, is 950 kilowatt hours a month. We did it on 1,000.
I thought I heard somebody say 110.
No, it's 950.
Okay.
Kilowatt hours is the average in our town. We did the status on 1,000 kilowatts. We went slightly higher on the average rate. So to give you an example, in the state, the average base rate right now is between 22 and 27 for your base meter rate. We were trying not to hit that hard at once, and that's what the PSC does not like to see. So that's why we spread it out just a little bit in that first year. The rest of the changes could be made on the base meter rate, solely, if that's what the council desires.
And this increase is going to happen every year?
No, ma'am. There's only 5 years proposed, and this is not the increase proposed. This is only the first year. The second year, the third year, the fourth year, and the fifth year are much lower. They descend.
7.53, right.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
it's over 5 years.
Yes, ma'am. It's
So-
catching us up because of being behind, and then it's stabilizing it for the future time.
So do you have a rates amount all the way through those 5 years?
I do not have those
Where
totals.
will we
I do not have those totals
that 5 years?
every single year, but I mean, that's why I calculated the first year, because it's the highest increase proposed.
Questions? Mr. Fuller.
Is there a particular reason why we want to be the middle of the middle?
Yes, sir.
Because we're at the bottom right now.
There's actually a very specific reason, and that is that it was addressed by our representative in the state legislature when we were meeting with him, and others that we've spoken to in the state. We had a funding workshop here on the 19th of May with many state and federal agencies, and one of the issues with our rate structure for all of our rates, water, gas, electric, sewer, was that if we go in for grants and we go in for SRF loans and we go in for funding to fix critical infrastructure over time, it was stated to us specifically, and I can give you the exact quote, but it was basically, if you're the lowest, you can't come to the state asking for money because you've been irresponsible in not collecting the type of rates that you should in order to reinvest in your infrastructure. We're barely covering O&M and electric. We're not even to where we can cover real capital need projects. And as we talk about the other utilities in the future, we're not even covering O&M.
If I remember correctly, that's not exactly what she said.
It was close.
More likely,
It was close.
it was that we were irresponsible in our reserves, that our reserves were depleted beyond what was expected.
No, she said our rates were too low, we weren't collecting enough to put money in our reserves.
Correct.
That's
But
what she said.
reserves were the issue.
Because we didn't have any money to put in reserves.
And I guess.
And if we don't collect it, we can't put it in there.
Well, the fact is the reserves are impacted by more than just the utility rates, but they're impacted by spending.
That's pretty much where they come, that's where the money comes from, though, Mr. Fuller.
Yeah.
From the utility rates, all of them.
But it comes from spending. I mean, when we look at
The money comes from
it comes from
the utilities.
utilities, but the impact on the reserves come from spending.
Of course. Yep, because that's what they're for.
And so we probably need to look at this when we begin to look at budget this year as well.
Absolutely.
Can you give us a dollar amount, at the end of those 5 years where we will be as far as the rate charge?
I can't right this moment, but I absolutely can provide that information. Yes, ma'am. I don't want to. I could guesstimate, but I don't want to do that.
Right, it's just, it would be a good idea to know from beginning to end where we're gonna be within those 5 years when we're looking at this proposal.
Yes, ma'am.
And I almost feel like I'd rather do 8 and 8 and 8 and 8 and 8 instead of 32, 9, 7, 3, and 2.
So we understand that. And
I mean, I realize you're trying to recoup right now.
No,
but
we were, that was based on 750,000 being raised, that was the goal. The reason why that particular goal was made was because 400, almost 500,000 of it specifically was a loss of ARPA funds that has funded the budget the last 2 years. That money's gone, cannot be replaced. So the other bit of it was that the city of Williston really is in a position where this year in budget, we need another lineman and a groundman. We can't operate this system with the growth of the city with one lineman for the entire city. So when we got with Stephen and said, what is the salary of a lineman and a groundman, but you have to have a groundman for your lineman, it came up with $250,000 approximately in salaries and benefits, all in. So that's where we came up with the $750,000. This amount is that's what it is funding. And again, we're still not on capital. We're still not on a poll program. We're still not on money to the general fund. We haven't accomplished anything other than meeting the obligation of money spent in the budget yearly from ARPA and then again, the linemen and the groundmen for a growing system. So that's how the amount was come up, and it wasn't that there was a desire to do it a heavy in the first year. It was just that is the financial need of the department if we talk about operation and maintenance.
So if we talk about kicking the can down the road, by not purchasing items over the past several years, we're in the situation we're in because of that. You know, so if we have to do 31 and drop down from there, that's good. I mean, don't want to have to do it, but I pay taxes and utilities and everything else, and got no problem. And that's even talking to somebody who's on a fixed income. And they understand it. They got no problem.
Yeah, I think if we talk to people one-on-one, they would understand, but it's hard to get the word out that you're gonna raise the bill that much every month.
And just for clarification, I did want to point out, I had Latricia scroll down. You do have what the rates will be for the next, what we will be charging through October 2027 and thereafter. So you do have that itemized in your ordinance.
Yes, I just didn't have the totals.
Right, the totals aren't there, but the rates are there.
Right.
But it does show what the meter charge is.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and it does show what the kilowatt hour is.
And we just multiply that by 1,000, and that comes up with what your monthly average usage would be on top of the other. And as I said, you know, we could make an alteration, and the kilowatt hour, we could, after the first year, we could defer on that and basically put the entire percentage on the base rate. That's definitely up to what council has a desire to do, and that's a fixed cost. It has nothing to do with consumption, and that's the direction we want to go. This again, a lot of this stuff is drafted by the attorneys from FMPA and FMEA. So when they make recommendations, we can explain that you all have options, but they obviously make some of these recommendations for a particular reason. And so that's, you know, it's at y'all's discretion of how you would want to pursue that. We do know that the trend in both water and gas is to rely more heavily on the base rate. And you'll see that with the gas ordinance here in a few moments. That meter charge is a large portion of the increase as far as where we're taking the rate structure so that you can budget for that specifically.
So if we did 20% instead of 32%, how much money would it raise?
Well, I mean, we can get you those figures, but again, honestly, what that is we do not have either the ARPA replacement or we do not have a lineman and a groundman because there's no money for it. And so then again, we've got 98 homes coming in, another 248 proposed, another 55 townhomes, all of this development.
We obviously need another lineman.
We need another lineman, and the ARPA money isn't something that we have any way of replacing. So that's, you know, this, and Stephen, if he's still on, he can chime in. I mean, this was working with the finance director of where the fund needed to go, and that's how the revenue matrix was created.
Floor, Stephen, if you need it. A second.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion to ordinance number 2023711 be approved.
I have a motion, I have a second.
You got
Any
Mike.
further discussion? And I'll wait for Mr. Bloom if he's there.
Yeah, I just will, I can echo what Donald's saying here. You know, last year alone, the utility fund had to run at a deficit of over 450,000. We knew this. This is not, you know, surprise. We did it with the idea that we'd be looking at the utility rates. This year, we're going to be running at a deficit at about 350,000. And again, these are with 2 years of ARPA funds included in them as, you know, a mechanism to support. So you take out the ARPA funds and you know, you really need to do what you're doing now. I mean, it doesn't become a matter of should you, you just have to, because you're going to really use up all of your reserves way too quickly. So, and that's everything that you've heard from staff already. But I just wanted to echo the same thing, that is an issue. You cannot keep using up your reserves. And as a reminder, a couple things. The pension percentage, we had this in this current year, we had kind of a one-time kind of nice low, drop in it. Well, that's not going to be the case next year. Pension contribution percentage is going to be going way back up to, 7% for general and like 20 something for police. And that also, again, insurances we've heard as well are going to be going up 20-25% in the state. So there's just a lot of, you talk about spending, which certainly does drive this, and there's a lot of costs that the city is not going to have a whole lot of control over. And again, that's kind of why we built this and looked at this, to try and make sure we could be prepared for what's coming.
Thank you, sir. Anybody have questions for Mr. Bloom? I hear him telling me I must do this. I hear him telling me that it is,
I don't think we have a choice.
all right, that it's negligent not to do this. That's what I hear him telling me. Any further questions for anybody? I have a motion and a second on the floor, on the table.
Aye.
I haven't called it yet,
Oh, call.
but I will. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Let me, if you will, in this same ordinance, will you talk about the rate stabilization plan? Because I think that gives people back their money.
Yes.
Than what we just took from them. I think it's going to give it back to them.
So last summer, we had the market for the natural gas, which is where we have supplied most of our bulk purchasing for our power. We had it triple. I think it went from $3 to $9 at one point. And this happened right at the heat of the summer. And it was such a cause and effect of the folks everywhere, not just for those that live in the city, but no matter where you lived in the country, where the tail end of COVID, Ukraine, and all these things came together, and our bills skyrocketed. So within the change in the ordinance, besides the rates, the two really positive things in there is the rate stabilization fund, and that gives council's approval to establish and build this fund so that when rates have that happen again, we can look at that increase and we can stabilize it. We could take your bill that was typically $150 and in the summer all of a sudden it jumps to $300, and across the board equally in percentage to every single person in our service district, decrease and take from that fund and take your bill back where it's manageable, where your normal bill would be, or close to it. And then just when the times are good, when gas is low, that's when we just slightly do a little overcollect in that pass-through, that gas pass-through, and we build that fund to make sure that we have protection for those great increases. And so yes, that is something that is established in here. It asks for the fund to always have a minimum of 1.2, and it will not
It's for
exceed,
electric too.
specifically for electric,
Right.
only for electric.
Yeah, you said gas, but
I apologize.
Yeah.
I meant the bulk purchasing of it. And it has a maximum of 3.5. And so that would be funds to utilize across the board for all of our people when we have these economic conditions that spike the market.
which I think is a wonderful thing. A lot of other companies had that, and we didn't. Not everybody did, but we definitely didn't. And we saw those bills go up double because of the cost adjustment. This would help use the fund, the rate stabilization fund would be help to pay that cost adjustment charge and lower the amount that people would have to see fluctuate so bad. So I'm happy with that part of this ordinance. So I just want people to hear about that part of it too. There was another issue.
Design standards and specifications. That simply creates what we call a blue book between the engineers and the building inspectors through planning and zoning, permitting. That basically makes sure that the city has a standard. No developer could come in and build a substandard development and then turn it over to the city. This, at the very beginning, helps with our developer agreements that our wonderful attorneys help us create when we have these industries come in and work with us for housing, and it just makes sure that the roads, the gas, everything. But this specifically deals with electric, and it codifies that there will be a standard that's continually updated that will tell them how the electric system has to be designed to meet compliance with what we provide and what we participate with.
Thank you.
Couple of questions. So,
Yes, sir.
Once we hit the maximum amount of money, what happens? Do we stop collecting that Passover, that extra off the Passover?
We would, with our actuary or our advisors, that would be between Mr. Bloom, our finance director, and a gentleman named Bill Harrington, who we contract with to forecast. Council at that point would have two options that would be brought before them. You could continue to collect very small amounts and then use some of the fund for capital improvement only for the electric department. So if you had a truck that had to be replaced, or you had part of the grid that was unstable, or you had, remember when we had the reclosures go down, that improvement or that repair could be taken out. It's the only other thing a rate stabilization fund can be used for is capital within the electric department. That way it's not coming out of your reserves, and it's not something that council has to consider a loan to fix. Now, if we
Tricia,
have
can
all of
move
our
to
needs
page
met,
31. Hold on a second.
Sure.
Move to page 31 so people can look at it. Okay, keep going, Donald. Sorry.
if we have all of our needs met and our infrastructure is right where it should be, then yes, obviously it's not to exceed 3.5, and if gas was at 0 and it was recommended that is what we need to collect on the bulk pass through on the fuel charge, then yes, it would be 0. That is correct.
Right there.
All right, and so how do we determine at what point is the amount of money we need to always leave in there to get the citizens through hard times, or to know that we have extra money to go towards?
That's why we established a minimum of 1.2 once the fund is built. We always want to make sure we have the 1.2.
But we cannot go over the 3.5. So when we get to 3.5, we need to have a dollar amount that we're willing to kick back.
We have to stop, or y'all have to approve it.
Correct.
That's the way it's written. So we would stop at 3.5, and we could come to you and go, what do you want us to do?
Correct.
And that is the max.
Perfect. Okay.
Question. So we're looking at about a 54.9% increase over the next 5 years.
In
Correct.
total, yes,
total.
ma'am. And again, if you look
Will
at...
that fluctuate at all, or is that kind of where we're going to be at?
So, I'll be honest with you, I suspect that if we were to do that over 5 years, just with some municipalities and municipal power providers, we're still going to be at the bottom. Ocala, I think, made 3 rate changes 2 years ago, 2 rate changes this year. You know, of course, Gainesville, we won't talk about them because they're on the wrong end of the chart. Newberry, Bushnell, things that are similar to us in size. I'll be honest with you, at that, those are very conservative numbers. Again, it's an ordinance. The attorneys would tell you that council could come and decide to alter that, to raise it, to lower it, to change it. These are the ones that would just be put in to keep us on par with the market.
Okay. So, but once we get to that after those 5 years, if it fluctuates or does not fluctuate, then we're going to be at another, like a 1 point.
You wouldn't be at anything at the end of the 5 years. There's no CPI built into the power, again, because the Public Service Commission for some reason does not like it in power. And so they don't mind in other services, but they have a problem with it for some reason in power. There was one municipality that had it, and the PSC came to them politely and said, please take it off. They didn't force them to, but they did. And so then, again, now what's happened is most of them are establishing rates over a period of years, and then they make adjustments as they need. And that's why we presented 5 years. And as I said, if we look at it, I mean, after you get past the second year, it drops off significantly. And I can't imagine that that's going to keep us in the middle of the middle. We're probably going to find ourselves right back at the left-hand side of the chart at the lowest of the low.
Which is great.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's where I want to be.
Absolutely.
Trying to get grant money.
Oh, yeah. At least they saw we tried for 5 years. All right, we're moving to item E unless anybody has a problem with that. All right, item E, first reading of ordinance 2023-713, an ordinance of the City of Williston, Florida, amending the City of Williston Land Development Regulation as amended pursuant to increased housing needs relating to amendment of the text of the Land Development Regulations. providing for amending chapter 56, section 56-4, cul-de-sacs, allowing for 1,000 feet in length described herein, and allowing for private streets within developments, providing severability, providing for incorporation in the city code of ordinances, and providing an effective date. Ms. Jones.
Thank you, Madam.
Explain this to me.
Okay. So we did have some issues with cul-de-sacs. Our code said that cul-de-sacs could be no bigger than 500 feet. And it was written a long time ago, and we thought probably maybe the fire trucks were a little bit smaller back then. Maybe people weren't getting as many deliveries from Kroger's, but it wasn't working for us anymore. So we went ahead and we wanted to change that. So we changed it to not be less than 1,000 feet.
And you mean in length? From when it leaves another road? Not
Sir.
the diameter. You're talking about the length of the road or the diameter of the cul-de-sac?
In length, so yeah, the length of the road. So what we were having was these short little cul-de-sacs that were able to be done, and you couldn't turn around.
So they were 500 feet and they were 40 feet.
Mm-hmm.
But now they're gonna be 1,000 feet
Yes.
and 40 feet.
Yes. Yeah, and there's a couple of reasons for it. We got a lot of complaints from people who were trying to do developments and saying that 500 is not big, not long enough, big enough. So we went ahead and changed it to 1,000. The other thing, since it was part of this, okay.
Because it said not more than 500.
Right, it was.
And now it says not less than 1,000.
Yes.
Oh, so that's much different.
Yeah.
I understand now. Thank you very much.
The other thing was, it was part of the same ordinance, and we have had some trends where people are asking if streets can be private. The one biggest reason why streets would be private is if it was a gated community. We don't have any gated communities in Williston. There's a chance we may never have them, but we were excluding them from being able to come by saying we could not have private roads. So planning and zoning were very thoughtful when they looked at this a couple weeks ago, and they said, you know, we're not too worried about having the private roads. However, because HOAs do fail, and sometimes those gates are taken away, we would like those private roads to at least be up to the standards of the public roads. So if they do get turned into public property for whatever reason, they'll still be at our standards. So we went ahead and made that change for them. Originally, we had just taken out private roads are, you know, not allowed. And so we added private streets, which are dedicated to the homeowners association or any other such entity, and not dedicated to the public. So remember, when you're on a plat, it dedicates it to the public or it doesn't. They must still meet the Florida Department of Transportation Manual of Uniform Minimum Standards for Designs, Construction and Maintenance for Streets and Highways, or the City of Williston's Blue Book standards, whichever is stricter. So they can have these private roads and gated communities, but they need to be to our standards. And those are the changes of the ordinance. It's not too hard.
Any questions for Ms. Jones?
So once the gated communities go away, if they ever go away, does that now become public?
It may have to by default if an HOA dissolved, which is harder to do nowadays than it used to be, but it can still happen 20, 30 years from now. Planning at least wanted those roads to be up to our standards if we had to take them over. Because we wouldn't leave residents stranded with no maintenance of roads. And sometimes those homeowners associations will take that gate down and say it's a free-for-all in here now. And that'll now be, to us, a public street. And we don't want to make it a hardship on us by having some not up-to-standard road built. So that's why we added that. And that was very thoughtful of planning and zoning, because I had originally just scratched it out, so.
Councilman Robinson? No, I saw your light on. Anybody else have questions for Ms. Jones? Not, I'll entertain a motion for 2023-713.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2023-713.
I have a motion and a second on first reading. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Wright.
Can we take a 10-minute break?
I have been asked by someone else to have a break as well, so yes, we are going, it is 5 minutes after 8. We are going to adjourn until 25 minutes after 8.